Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the SuperJersh Show, my podcast where I talk about random things randomly. It's usually music, movies, video games, and a variety of topics. But because I'm in the Halloween spirit, we're mainly talking about horror movies for the next few episodes. And maybe that continues if that's all people give a shit to hear about. I don't know. Just as a reminder, you can get this show early and ad-free by supporting me on patreon.com/SuperJersh. If you watch this on YouTube, I'm also on iTunes and Spotify. Just search SuperJersh. If you don't want to support me there, that's fine. If you just want to support me in other ways and follow me, all of my YouTube and my socials are at SuperJersh. So YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, all at SuperJersh. You can also find more episodes of this podcast on my website, SuperJersh.com. If you want to be a part of the show with your questions, comments, and suggestions, the email address is superjershow@gmail.com. I want to welcome new patrons, Danielle, Jessica, and Carol. Thank you, Patreon executive producer Tris, and thank you, legendary Patreon producer Zelbinian. Your Battle of the Bands the last couple of months have been really fun, and I am petrified at the decisions I'm going to have to make for future bands. I also want to thank, of course, Patreon executive producer Mirrors Edge Girl, who is again here. Say hello, Mirrors.
Back again. So.
And every time you introduce yourself, your microphone says "fuck you" and
did it do it
out.
again?
Yep. Mirrors sent me a very threatening message and said the last SuperJersh Show podcast was so wonderful and it was free of technical errors and it was so flawless that I just have to be back. And she's not back because I really enjoyed talking to her and desperately pleaded with her to come back to the show. It's definitely the first thing that I said and not the second thing. So yeah, your microphone hates you. Yeah, there you go. I heard the exasperated gasp of anger, but I did not hear the chuckle, not the funny part.
I didn't laugh.
Oh.
You're not funny at all.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, on this episode of the show, we're going to talk about two, I guess, Halloween-themed horror movies, Candyman and Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. Mirrors, I have a preference on on the order that I want to talk about these movies. Do you have a preference?
I do not.
Okay. Let's talk about Candyman. Okay. So, first of all, as always, I'm always curious, what is your familiarity with the Candyman series and had you seen it before?
I've definitely heard of it, but I've never seen it before. I knew who Tony Todd was. I'm more familiar with him from Final Destination. But yeah, I'd never seen it before.
He's in the Final Destination series?
Mm-hmm.
I was gonna say, I know who Tony Todd is as an actor. I think he's also most known for doing the voice for Venom in the Spider-Man animated series from the 90s or 2000s.
Yeah, he's the one that's like basically explains to them what's going on.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah. I might have to rewatch that movie. We might have to talk about it on this show because I've seen two of the Final Destination movies and I haven't seen them since they came out. Like the first one, whenever it came out, that's when I saw it. I haven't watched it since.
It's been about, let's see, what was that, 99 or 2001?
20 years, whatever it was, yeah.
Yeah, they're all on HBO Max,
so. But Candyman, so you were aware of it, but you had actually never seen it.
Correct. I thought that it was one of those, like, low-budget, super campy, cheesy, bad horror movies. So I've kind of, I wouldn't say avoided it, but I never chose to watch it until you made me, so.
Until we came
until I begged.
Yeah. But yeah, so Candyman, I have never seen it either. I watched it for the first time in my life today.
Me too.
My only familiarity with the movie is if anybody's curious, if they want to go way back over 2.5, almost 3 years on my on my YouTube channel history, even when the YouTube channel was called something else, I did a retro reaction for Halloween to the trailer for Candyman. Um, and that was that's when I learned the most about it. And that trailer, to its credit for being a really old trailer for a really old movie, doesn't tell you anything. And again, I do want to say full spoiler warning. This is a 30-year-old movie. Also, full spoiler warning for Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter later. That's like an almost 10-year-old movie. If you're interested in these movies, they're very easy to locate online. And I would recommend that you watch them beforehand. If I talk about newer, more recent movies, I will do a spoiler-free section. But while we're in old movie territory, I'm less worried about that. I'm assuming people have already seen them or will go see them. You know what I mean? So, before we get into the specifics and actually kind of go a little bit throughout the plot here, what was your overall takeaway on Candyman?
Liked it better than I thought. Like I said, I thought it was, just like a cheesy movie. I watched it somewhat in the dark. So I was a little, on edge.
Okay.
It made me nervous. I felt nervous even before Tony Todd came out. I could feel like something was building up.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I was a little nervous throughout it. But yeah, I really liked it. I would probably watch it again. It didn't necessarily go the direction that I thought it would go.
Mm-hmm.
I did not think that she was going to end up being what she became.
Yeah.
Even though he told her numerous times this is
Mm-hmm.
what's going to happen. Yeah.
So overall, you liked it. You're pleasantly surprised. It sounds like because you.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I assume that it was just like a bunch of no names too. I didn't realize, that it was Xander Berkeley and Virginia Madsen, and then the woman from Silence of the Lambs.
Which woman?
The Bernie. Wasn't that Clarice's friend from the Academy?
Was it really? Oh wow!
I believe so.
I haven't seen Silence of the Lambs in forever.
I'll look into it right now and make sure I'm not a fool.
You can fact check that. I will say too, the other thing that I had heard about Candyman before I saw the retro trailer a couple of years ago was I knew it was this idea of saying his name over and over in the mirror. When I was young, I remember people saying Candyman over and over, but I didn't understand it. I didn't know exactly why. I thought it was 3 times in my head, like Beetlejuice. I didn't know it was 5 times.
Yeah.
So I did know that. Did you find the actress's info?
I'm swiftly looking.
Still looking. Well, let me share my overall thoughts.
Yeah.
I also was very pleasantly surprised by this movie. I really liked it a lot. It started slow, and yeah, I feel like the first 20 or 30 minutes probably could have been like a 2-paragraph still image to get you caught up on the lore of Candyman. Like the first 30 minutes is her talking to different characters, either talking about to somebody else what the lore is or learning more of the lore from somebody else, basically to educate the audience on this brand new kind of folklore legend that Clive Barker. I had no idea Clive Barker was involved in this in any fucking way.
Yeah, I made a note once I saw it. I was like, oh, this is now the Clive Barker show.
Yeah, I kind of wanna read through my notes in order as we kind of talk about the movie because it's just random thoughts that I had that I took notes while watching, and I don't know, maybe you can comment on them or see if you felt the same way. But yeah, I thought the first 20 or 30 minutes was really lore filler that probably could have been a slide, but everything else felt very kind of meaningful for the character's journey as far as, having the fake out interaction with the Candyman impersonator, having her immediately turn around and interact with the real Candyman, and then kind of having the plot reveal itself of what Candyman does to get victims, which I thought was kind of really unique. I feel like maybe I have seen it in other movies, but I'm giving this movie credit because this movie was 92. Like,
Right.
in a similar Event Horizon Sunshine situation, I'm trying to remember that this movie's, a lot older than other movies I may have seen more recently that try to pin different killings on victims and whatever, you know what I mean?
Did confirm it is her.
It is
The
her.
same.
Um
So so I wonder which one. Do you know when Silence of the Lambs came out? I wonder if like she got this role because of Silence of the Lambs or Silence of the Lambs because of this.
I think it was
Or
91.
okay. Yep.
Yeah, 1991. So yeah, so right away seeing Clive Barker, I was really surprised. I didn't know Virginia. I had forgotten that Virginia Madsen was in this movie, and I feel like is she? I feel like she's Michael Madsen's sister or something like that. I think they're related.
And I could see a
They kind of
family
look similar,
resemblance.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that.
So you heard it here first. Objectively factual, they're brother and sister. We're not going to fact check that
Mm-mm.
because we know it to be true. And because you heard it on the internet, it makes it true. So yeah, so we get kind of this like GTA overhead tracking shot, which I guess was really special at the time. They created a brand new camera to get that smooth Chicago traffic overhead shot. And it's still impressive to this day. So it was definitely worth it. It's almost 30 years later. I'm like, damn, this is a really cool kind of overhead tracking shot. And it couldn't have been a crane. It couldn't have been a drone 30 years ago. I wouldn't assume. So they had to make the special. They called it like a sky cam or something like that. That kind of went along with the traffic super smooth. It was interesting. Anyway, yeah. So I don't know. I don't necessarily need to go through the plot, but I thought that um I don't know. I like how it evolved. I like how it revealed itself. My You said that you were also surprised by where this movie went. Um where did you think it was going to go? Like what assumptions were you making as the movie started or based off of what you had heard about it before?
I thought it was gonna be that like when the first time she said in the mirror, she said his name, I figured that he was just going to be like stalking her the whole movie, like killing her friends, killing her husband. Um, I didn't know that he was going to make her make it, pin it all on her.
Right.
Um, and then I didn't know that, she was going to essentially become like his queen of the night and take
Mhm.
his place.
Yeah. Which again, shout outs to Ted Raimi in that flashback story where we're learning the Candyman rules. That was Ted Raimi playing the boyfriend in the flashback story with the leather jacket.
Familiar.
Yeah, that was Ted Raimi, which we just talked about him on Evil Dead 2.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I totally thought knowing that it was something about saying his name and then them getting right into that in the first 10 minutes of explaining you say his name in the mirror 5 times and he appears. I thought for sure that that's exactly what the movie was going to be was all these people getting curious about saying his name and then just dying one after the other. I for sure when she said it into the mirror at the beginning of the movie thought, yeah, they said he appears over your shoulder. But what I also thought was really clever is like later in the movie when she's developing the photos of the basically the murder scene or his lair, you do see him over her shoulder. So he was over her shoulder, just not in the literal sense that you would think when you hear that rule for this lore.
Yeah, I was shocked to see that like, you know, she basically got away with saying his name and then so that's what was confusing about me. Why didn't she get killed then?
Because I think and again whether this is inconsistency in the plot narrative or it's actually really clever on the part of Clive Barker and the screenwriter. I think he wrote it for the screen and directed it, but I feel like they were making their own legend, their own urban myth, this folklore. And the thing about folklore and urban myth is nobody gets it right. So I feel like that's the scary Halloween story version that's been passed down generation after generation. And then we get a taste of what the reality is if you say his name in the mirror, he is over your shoulder and you are going to die, but it's not in that instant spooky story way that you expect, because it's almost like this is the real life version of the boogeyman. So it doesn't work the way you tell in like a heightened, entertaining fashion when you're passing down folklore. You know what I mean? So I kind of gave the movie credit that like, oh, that's what everybody heard, but here's the real story. Here's really what happens. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, I thought the music really grew on me too. Like at first it was kind of cheesy 90s synth, but by the end of the movie I was like looking forward to the music happening in the movie, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know. So what are some other highlights for you in general, and maybe what are some things that were less ideal, disappointing maybe?
Um, I noticed. Okay, so I've got a couple notes here. I didn't go into the IMDb trivia like I did the last time because I was kind of cutting it kind of close with this one, so I didn't necessarily have time to really get into it. So I was just taking notes as I went.
Mm-hmm.
They did like the William Shatner like eyelight thing
Mm-hmm.
a lot. I think it was only when he was around
Yeah, it's
it did it to her.
when he was basically hypnotizing her or drawing him, which I did read a little of the trivia. Apparently, they did really hypnotize her to try to get a certain gaze while she was, but after they did it a few times, she was uncomfortable and didn't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd be up for that.
I mean, it's called acting. You don't have to actually be in a trance. You can pretend.
Right, right. Um, and then let's see. So, do you think that she was reincarnated? Was she the reincarnated version of his long lost love?
Spoilers for Bram Stoker's Dracula. I loved that reveal, and I absolutely think that's what the movie is trying to say, is that she was like a reincarnation or a long lost bloodline relative of the girl that he fell in love with. And I think he was basically almost trying to recreate his family, steal that baby, get her,
Mhm,
because she was
mhm.
pregnant. I believe was the story went that he got her pregnant, but then they were
Correct.
all murdered together or whatever. So it's almost kind of this like tortured soul again, like Dracula. And in the trivia, the the director said that he was like trying to do a Dracula for the African American community or something like that, something along those lines. That there was a romanticism to Candyman, that he would seduce you in the way that he kind of does in the movie. And Tony Todd's voice is awesome, was awesome in the movie, and I loved like how spooky and scary and almost like it's like like humanly demonic. Like it sounded like a human voice, but it sounded like an evil voice. Yeah. Um, but yeah, I definitely think that that was the point, that she was, and again, this like modern, cool Chicagoland version of like a mural or a painting or like something out of Dracula, where it's graffiti paint in the abandoned building where he was allegedly killed, or where a girl was allegedly murdered or whatever, and then you just see a painting of her. You're like, wait, what?
Yeah, whenever it revealed that, like, it was always you, Helen, or something, I was like, "Are
Yeah.
we doing this? Are we doing this?" And it zoomed in on her face. I was
Uh
like,
huh.
um,
Me too.
yeah, I thought
Um,
that was pretty cool.
yeah, like just the overall lore of the backstory of Candyman, this slave that uh was uh was fortunate enough to get an education in that racist time period and had a talent for skill. This was a good guy, and he fell in love with the white woman, and the racism of the day cost him his life for it, and covering him in honey and covering him in bees. Because I remember when I saw the trailer, I was like, "What the fuck does bees have to do with anything? And why the hell is he called Candyman?" I'm like, Candyman is not a scary name for a fucking
Yeah,
horror film guy. But
right. And that's why I thought it was gonna be cheesy because I'm
yeah,
like, that sounds stupid.
here comes Shark Arm. He's got a shark at the end of his arm. And it's like this serious, like, methodical thought piece on, like, I don't know, SeaWorld or something. But, Yeah, I think it overcame what was working against it, which is kind of a cheesy name and being an older movie, you think it's maybe not going to hold up as well, and I thought it mostly did. I agree the lighting, the like movie lighting was a little over the top. I didn't think Virginia Madsen was particularly great in the first half, but as things accelerated and she got more tortured and had to go to more emotional depths, I was like, okay, wow, she actually is doing a really good job here. Like when she is like naked in front of that police officer and is like, you just see like this innocent woman has just got arrested for murder and she didn't do anything, and just like the pain on her face of like, this is dehumanizing. I shouldn't have to go through this. What the fuck is going on? You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I thought all that was really good. Um yeah, I don't want to quite talk about the last third yet. So,
Okay.
I don't know. Like, was there anything that you didn't like before we get to like the last third of the movie, like kind of like the big moments?
Uh, I couldn't tell if there was like a lot of ADR or not.
Okay,
Things sounded almost a little too like
Chris.
clear.
Yeah.
Yeah. I couldn't tell. I was trying to look and see. Um so I also I since I watched this on TV, I think it was edited.
Mm.
Um and so yeah, I was going to ask you whenever when they're in the bathroom and the little boy's telling the story about the little boy that got killed.
Uh huh.
All they said was it they found it. Did they say in like the regular version like the word? Because I just inferred that, they were talking about like that he was castrated.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean. No, in the movie, that's exactly what they say. They
Okay.
don't say anything more vulgar. They just say, yeah, they found it in the toilet or whatever. I was like, Jesus
Okay.
Christ. Yeah, because I watched the regular rated R version on Amazon or whatever.
Okay.
Um,
And yeah, and then they cut out Bernadette's death. They it some of it kind of cut quickly.
mm-hmm,
It didn't, and I ended up going back and watching like the full clip of it on YouTube.
mm-hmm.
That cut out like the screaming and like the sound. It
Yeah.
just like immediately went. So watching it until it hit me, oh, this is probably edited, because there were commercials and everything.
Right.
It wasn't just like, all the way through. I was like, this is kind of like a lame, there's no like brutal killings. There's no like, they're not doing anything crazy. I was like, oh, this is kind of lame. And I was like, oh, well, it's edited.
Yeah, I
Um,
actually thought that this was pretty tasteful gore effects for this type of genre film and from Clive Barker. I think I've watched the first two Hellraiser movies. I talked about them on an old podcast. I can maybe find the sound bites, but like overall, like those movies are fucking gross to me. Like they're so disgusting and just over the top and like gore for gore's sake and shock value without kind of thought behind it. Whereas this had like a really well thought out lore for the villain, backstory for the student, an interpersonal conflict with the husband teacher cheating on her that actually played into the A plot. Like when she needed him because he was cheating on her, she was left alone at the police station. You know what I mean? Like I
yeah.
thought that the character work and the overall plot stuff worked together really well. And that the kind of the ultra violent moments, which were even short in the movie in the unedited version, they don't stay on them very long, were the right amount of like justified graphic violence, I would say, based on the subject matter. Um so yeah, let's talk about the bees. They're in my eyes. They're in my eyes. The bees are in my eyes. Like all I could think about was Nicolas Cage for almost every time I see bees. But what did you think of we just talked about iconic horror weaponry with Ash's chainsaw attached to his nub. Now we get a hook attached to a nub. What do you think of the hook? What do you think of the Candyman as like a killer? And what did you think of the bees?
Okay. So I thought the hook was cool. Actually, whenever like not to get too much into the end, but like whenever she has
Sure.
the hook,
Yeah.
um, and then for a second I was thinking, well, has she been doing all this? Like, is he not even
Mm.
real?
Mm-hmm.
Because there were like a lot of hooks all around.
Right.
Um, yeah. But I thought it's a good weapon. It's scary. Um, it was kind of freaking me out. Um, yeah, I thought he was a good kill. I'd be afraid to see him in a parking garage. Um,
Is
and the
I'll
bees.
say,
I'm sorry, you can go ahead.
am I mistaken? Does he have like a beehive at the end of his hand holding that claw, or is it just the makeup of hiding his hand for the claw underneath? Because I could swear it almost looked like a honeycomb, like a beehive with the claw.
It might have been. I didn't know. I did notice it was like pretty like wide and
Yeah,
pronounced
yeah.
there, so it could have been. Um,
I agree that the hook is pretty menacing. It's very simple, and again, giving the movie the benefit of the doubt for how old it is. You know, they probably looked at Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, Ash, and said, "What hasn't been done?" Now, probably a hook's been done, but at the time, they probably were like, "Here's a weapon that can be our own thing." You know what I mean?
Really, a hook used in one of the Final Destination movies, so I
Is
don't
it?
know if that was like a callback because of him. Um,
It could have been because by that time, I think Candyman had been established as a genuine horror film kind of franchise and a character to be homaged. You know,
yeah, and I know that there's at least one more, several more, um, of the Candyman movies, I
there's
think.
two more, and then the new one this year, which I would absolutely be down to watch and talk about if people wanted to hear our thoughts on those. Like, I'm really curious because like this one, I genuinely feel like is like a really good movie and like a really good story. That's kind of what gets me into horror movies. Like that's why I like the first Conjuring so much, is because I was totally into the lore and figuring out what the ghost wanted and bringing the Warrens in and them helping this family in need. Like I love the first Conjuring movie so much. And um I really like the story of this movie of where this character Helen starts, where she ends up in her personal life, in her mental state, and all the things that she had and all the things that she lost. And even though her life is ruined and her friend is dead and she's probably gonna die, she's still trying to save that baby because she knows the truth. You know what I mean? Like I just thought that was all really good. And um it could, even though it could have seemed a little contrived for the little boy to like see a hook and then go try to burn her, for some reason I was like, makes sense. You see the hook, you have this Candyman lore all around you, you saw a motherfucker dressed up like Candyman earlier in the movie, it would totally make sense that you were on the lookout. Conspiracy theorist, oh my god, that's a hook, that's Candyman. Like I believed it. My suspension of disbelief was not pulled out of that. It didn't seem like a contrivance.
Yeah, especially with how, like, at the beginning, and then it made sense once we realized exactly who he was talking about, but whenever it was like he was getting mixed up, like, the real guy that, like, was Candyman
Mm-hmm.
with, like, the lore he had heard, because I guess it was, like, a big thing in that complex. Because he kept saying, like, "My congregation,"
Yeah.
right? Because whenever she revealed that the guy, the criminal guy, who was like going as Candyman, once he was gone, I guess people weren't afraid of Candyman anymore, and they were like,
Right.
"Oh, that's the real one." And so he was like, "You've ruined my congregation and all that stuff." So it made sense, yeah, that he still has like that fear instilled in him,
Mm-hmm.
to where he's like, finally, like, I'm gonna stop this. I'm not gonna let him, kill anybody else. Um, so yeah, but I was like, no, there's a baby. Can't you hear the baby?
That was one thing I was like, why don't you hear the baby screaming? It's dead silent out there, and she's like 3 feet from you inside this rubble. But that was fine.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I also feel like they I think I mentioned before, like when you come up with a concept, when you come up with a premise, if the first idea that comes into your head how to manipulate that premise for entertainment, Like, you can't go with that. You need to dig a little deeper, find something a little bit more complex and a little bit more thoughtful. And I just felt like with this lore of Candyman and with, the effectiveness of the bees and having their mouth full of bees and kiss and have the gruesomeness of the hook and how it tears your body apart and how um he manipulates you to make you look crazy and pin murders on you while you go crazy and then become a murderer in like the ghost realm yourself. I just feel like they really did a lot with the lore that they created, and I don't see in a sequel. I'm genuinely curious, what do they do? Do they just repeat it and then pin it on somebody else? Like a new person says Candyman and a new person goes crazy, and it's the same Virginia Madsen thing? Or is Virginia Madsen the new Candyman and they work together? Because there's like some serious historical callback to saying it's always been about you, Helen. That's a personal thing. It's not just a random you're not just a random victim because you said Candyman. You're the woman he fell in love with, which caused him to become what he became. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that was yeah, I was trying to figure out if there was anything like earlier in the movie when she was like learning about him, if there were any clues
Mm-hmm.
that, maybe he was like manipulating things to where, she's covering, she's researching the story because maybe he, some kind of, he threw something in her path to like bring her to him. It was kind of
Mm-hmm.
like well, this is random and by chance. We didn't see um him until we saw the pictures. We didn't see him like, lurking around or anything.
Right.
So
I
that was like maybe the one thing that I was kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't set up. It was a fun surprise that I thought deepened their connection, and
Mhm.
and once I read the trivia of he's supposed to be a version of Dracula, or there's like some Dracula influences with this character, like that sunk in even more for me. That was like, oh my god, this is Mina, and this is maybe this decades old love story or whatever, or centuries old love story. But yeah, there was no hinting to it. I don't think there was any guiding towards it. I think they thought it would just have more of an emotional punch if at the end there was an allusion to her being the woman. Because I agree, like you could have just as easily. I mean, I don't know. Maybe they're saying it's there, but I feel like you could have easily created a rift between the friend that wants to stop and the Virginia Madsen Helen that wants to keep going, because there's something about Candyman that is alluring and she feels this
Right.
pull and I just need to keep going. I don't think that was ever pushed. Maybe it's hinted at when Bernie Bernadette wants to leave and Virginia Madsen goes all the way into the mirror. I don't know, but what did you think of the bees?
Oh.
You
I
don't
mean, they
know?
were they were cool. I didn't understand the I mean, I guess since he was covered in bees when he died and he was like that's how he died, but he didn't use that to like kill anybody else. Was that it was almost like it was a way to like a transference of like power, I guess.
Yeah, because he didn't. Yeah, because that all ended up being like in her head or some sort of dream sequence or whatever. Yeah, he.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know because he was like well, also whenever he had her on that table and he was like touching her with his hook,
Mm-hmm.
um he was like, "Oh, the pain is gonna be like excruciating, and you're gonna pain." But then I don't know, I didn't get any sense from her that like she was like in immense pain.
Yeah,
Um,
that was the most Hellraiser it got, where he was like, "Oh, it's gonna be painful, but you're gonna love it." Is basically what he was
mhm.
saying. Like, that's the least of your worries. Like, yeah, it's gonna be the most pain you've ever felt in your life, but that's just the beginning. That was like very like kind of Hellraiser-ish, I thought. Um, Go ahead.
Yeah, I thought like that she was gonna be that was gonna kill her, and then she was gonna immediately be like reborn and be like him. But I guess she wasn't because she was physically out there, and everybody like physically saw her um
Yeah, she straight up
in the
Darth Vadered.
fire.
She Darth Vadered.
Yeah, I was like, "Whoa!" When I noticed all her hair was gone,
I
I
was
was
waiting
like,
for her to
"Oh."
say, "I hate you," screaming at the Candyman. I hate you.
Yeah, she looked pretty gnarly.
It was awesome, and it was again this it was a transformation. It's like very good kind of script writing rules. If you think about the blonde perfect life beginning at the at the beginning of the movie, with married to this successful teacher, this successful reporter in this nice apartment, and then at the end it's like you lost it all, everything's gone, you're framed for murdering the people you care about the most, and you're Darth Vader too now. You're crawling on fire trying to save a baby. Like, Jesus Christ, I did not see this movie ending here. You know what I mean? Like, um, very surprising in a good way. I think the bees, yeah, I think the bees from a visual perspective are kind of a unique, like weaponized bees using this pain that was used to take my life to inflict pain on others. It's like reverse Batman. You know what I mean? Like, bats scare me, now I use it to conquer. I put fear in other people and stuff. Um, I thought that it made sense, but yeah, that also that it wasn't used in real life. Like if
Mhm.
if you're at the park and you see like bees around a tree, like isn't shouldn't that be an indication that, like, shouldn't that be like something that makes you scared? You know what I mean? Similar to, like, I don't know.
Yeah, they could have done something like maybe when she's out and about, like there's like a couple bees that she
Mm-hmm.
notices nearby, or something to kind of maybe tie it all together. It almost seemed like an afterthought, maybe, I don't know, or just like, this is going to be really cool, we
Mm-hmm.
got money left in the budget for this, we got to do this.
Yeah.
That's how it kind of came off to me. um but yeah, I was like, okay, we're gonna go with bees now. But I mean, it was fine, I didn't mind it.
Yeah, so apparently I read a little bit of trivia. Those bees were like bred specifically for the movie because when bees are at a certain age, they are big enough to look like, the full-blown adult bees that you would, that you would see day to day, but their stingers haven't fully formed. So they're at this like perfect age where they look like menacing bees, but most of them don't really know how to sting or can't sting you. It still happens, but it's a much more minimal. It's not like all those bees were stinging them together. Um, I think I also read that like Tony Todd had a clause in his contract that was like every bee sting is $1,000, and he got stung like 23 times or something like that. Which is pretty minimal when you consider the hundreds of bees they're covered in. You know what I mean? Like,
Right, yeah.
yeah, I guess that was like the scene that had everybody nervous, including Virginia Madsen. She just basically like went to a fugue state and tried not to think, and just they like literally really had those bees on them for real like that. Like, that's fucking crazy.
In his mouth,
Yeah.
like that was real.
Yeah. Both of them. And then
I don't know if I could do that.
it took 45 minutes to get the bees off with a special bee vacuum that doesn't hurt them when they're extracted off. And they had queen bee extract like put all over them to keep the bees on
Oh,
them.
them.
Yeah. It's fucking gnarly. It's really cool.
Yeah.
That they went through those lengths, that the actors put themselves in that position. Like, I don't care what you were paid. That is an uncomfortable, maybe life altering experience. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, um, so what I want to know from you, and what I want to know from the comments, if anybody listens to this, either early on Patreon or on iTunes or Spotify, or if you watch this on YouTube, have you ever said Candyman 5 times into a mirror, and what happened? So have you ever done it, mirrors? And if not, are you gonna try it now?
I've never done it. I thought about like bringing a mirror and just being like, as a joke, like when you bring my camera on, like saying it, but no, I've never done Bloody Mary either. Um
Yeah.
I don't know,
Does
I
my
don't want to
phone
mess with that
reflection
stuff.
count?
Sure.
Yeah.
Do it.
Candyman, 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 Candyman. There, I did it. Anybody want me to stand in the middle of a pentagram and hail Satan while we're at it? Anyway,
Oh my goodness.
so that's Candyman. Both very pleasantly surprised, I think. What did you think of the performances? I forgot I said that overall I thought the performances were pretty good from the side character perspective and from the main character perspective. Was there anybody you didn't like or that wasn't believable? I guess as I'm saying it out loud, maybe the girl that the husband was cheating with was kind of ditzy and kind of generic. I don't know.
Yeah, when she was like, whenever Helen came into the apartment and like really freaked her out, I don't know, she was just kind of like, oh, oh,
Yeah.
oh. It was just, yeah, maybe her. Um, I think the little boy did a good job.
He was
Um,
really good, and apparently in the trivia they called him One Take Jake because he did that shit quick. As a kid, he like nailed his takes.
yeah, he was good. Tony Todd, of course, was very
He was
good.
yeah
He's gonna be in my dreams tonight.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I think everybody pretty much did a good job. There was nothing that, made me, flinch and cringe at.
I wasn't necessarily scared, but I was completely involved and invested in the story. You know what I mean? Like I wanted to know what happened. I was very curious to see where it was all going to lead. If she was going to be absolved of her crimes, or if it, because it's a horror movie, she was going to have a bad ending. Like as far as I know, she was never absolved of the crimes. She's probably in the real world considered guilty for those murders, and now she has an eternity of being another Candyman. Which again, the name Candyman still doesn't make any sense to me. I know they showed candy with like razors in it or something like that,
Yeah.
but it's like he never did that. That was never a thing that he did, right?
Right. I guess it was what I guess that guy, the criminal guy, took it literally, and so that's what he would do. One of his like nefarious acts was
Um.
like give kids candy with razor blades.
So you
Um,
watched it on television.
mhm.
So the very end, when the husband is crying in the bathroom because he misses Helen, and the woman, the young girl who he cheated with, is like cooking steak in the kitchen. Did,
Mhm.
did they blur her shirt on television, or was it very see through?
Uh, I don't know. I didn't notice.
Okay, because I noticed. I was like, this is very gratuitous. She does not
Oh,
have to have a shirt like this. This we made it all the way through the movie of everything pretty normal, pretty tasteful, and then you get to the end of the movie, it's like Jesus Christ, like that's completely pointless. I don't know. I was
they
curious.
must have blurred it. I didn't notice that they did. It wasn't eye catching or anything. So
I almost guarantee I need to like see the TV version. Anyway, I want to read through my notes here really quick. Um, Nick Cage, bees are in my eyes. Why called Candyman? Question mark. Smoking. LOL. A lot of smoking in this movie. Which
yeah, I had that as a note too.
Clive Barker.
Hmm.
Virginia Madsen, Michael Madsen's sister. Ted Raimi. The teacher is the stepdad from Terminator 2. That's the note that I made. He's the one like shut that goddamn dog up. Wolfie's fine, honey. Wolfie's just fine. He's the stepdad to John Connor. Uh, ugly people in movies. I think I've said before. There was some. I think maybe it was like 20 or 30 minutes into the movie where we get this like we get to see a bunch of students, and I feel torn, mirrors, because I talk about all the time in my music reactions how I'm always curious: are entertainers just banking on their looks, their sex appeal, or are they trying to bank on their talent, whatever, right? And I always make the joke like, if somebody has like a particularly provocative or sensual photo or imagery in their video, I'm like me for my music.
My
You,
music,
you know
yeah.
what I mean? Um, and so I genuinely want talented people to be appreciated for their talent. But I got to tell you, with film as a visual medium, I'm not. I don't know if I am for or against ugly people being in movies because there was just like one shot after another of like I don't get the put the pretty people back. What are we doing? Anyway, so I made a note of ugly people in movies.
I didn't notice. I'm not, superficial like you, so I didn't
Mm,
notice any
okay.
ugly people.
Um, Razor in Candy. Long haired teacher at dinner looks like the villain owl from Rockadoodle. Have you ever seen the old? You ever
No,
seen?
no, but I'll look up a picture.
There's like three people who are gonna get that. It's a cartoon owl villain from Rockadoodle. Anyway, the guy at the dinner table with the long hair who like fills in some information about the Candyman. He looked exactly like that owl. I was like, Jesus Christ, a cartoon owl from Rockadoodle come to life. Um, Virginia Madsen's eye. Did you see it? You see the picture?
I see it. I
Yeah.
don't see the resemblance,
Oh
but
no, they're the same. They're the same. Um, when she got hit by the fake Candyman and her,
hmm
I was like, the note just here is her eye is fucked forever. Like you don't
yeah.
recover from that.
I know that seemed. I don't know what the timeline was there, but it was like every scene it was like better. And I'm thinking this has got to be weeks, months.
She's bleeding in her eye and she's cooking that son of a bitch dinner. Like, you should cook dinner, asshole.
Right?
Like, she's
Yeah.
bludgeoned to death. I hope the steaks, it's hard to see if it's well done or medium well, but I hope it's good for you.
It looks bloody, but I can't tell if that's my eye or not.
Yeah. They say the word Candyman a lot in the movie. Like, Candyman, is that Candyman? It's like if you're watching Titanic, they're like, well, we're on the Titanic. Titanic does this. Titanic does that. Of course, Titanic is guilty of saying Jack and Rose too much, but I'm saying it as an example because it's the name of the movie.
Because, like, whenever Helen was sitting in, like, the classroom and she was, like, you know, doing her paper or article, whatever she was doing, and you hear the girl on the recording say, Candyman, 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 and then the cleaning woman goes, Candyman,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, don't say it 5 times.
Yeah, shit.
Because I kind of imagine, like, it's like Beetlejuice, where it doesn't matter, who says it. Or...
Right, that's another interesting point, though, because it very specifically was, you need to be the person that says it 5 times. I thought Ted Raimi was going to come back, because they said, yeah, he lost his mind. He's like, his hair went gray from trauma, and now he's like an old man. I thought he was going to like come back.
Did we see anybody with white hair?
No.
Like, because we saw, they talked about the guy that ran across the street to the bathroom to the boy, and then he came out with white hair. We didn't see that. We didn't see Ted Raimi with white hair. I was hoping she was going to go interview Ted Raimi, and we were going to see him like in a padded cell, white hair.
Yes.
I was kind of surprised. They just kind of was like, all right, that's done.
But yeah, overall, seems like we both really liked Candyman.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know that if you support me at any tier on patreon.com/SuperJersh, you can get this show early and ad-free? It's possible you didn't know that because you're hearing this promotion right now. And you may also not know that patreon.com/SuperJersh has dozens of exclusive reactions never released to YouTube, including TV show and movie reactions, like The Queen's Gambit, The Boys, Twin Peaks Season 1, Watchmen, and Twilight. But Jersh, I only care about when you talk about music. Why should I go to Patreon? Well, dismissive listener/viewer, the exclusive reactions I mentioned include several music reactions from a variety of artists, including 10-track mixtapes and full album reactions. These are 90-minute videos ad-free of nothing but me reacting to and reviewing music. But Jersh, also, what if I mainly care about your gaming content? Well, then you're a liar, listener/viewer, because nobody cares about my game streams on twitch.tv/SuperJersh. So head on over to patreon.com/SuperJersh now to support me at whatever tier you are most comfortable so that the reactions, reviews, podcasting, and gaming can continue. So let's talk about Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
Again, full spoilers. Let me make a quick note here. Actually, we're fine. We're fine. What did you know about this movie?
I remember when it came out. I remember actually before, because I think it came out like 2012.
Yeah, 2012. Yep.
And I think the book came out in 2010.
That's
I
right. The credits said it was based on a book.
Yeah, I remember seeing the book on shelves. And I don't know if you've seen what the cover of the book looks like.
No.
It's just like a regular picture of Abraham Lincoln, and you see like his arm behind his back, and then you see like an axe, like just coming, like it's really funny. And the author who wrote that also wrote Pride and Prejudice and Zombies.
Of fucking course. Of
which
fucking
also
course.
became a movie.
I've never seen that either.
Yeah, I avoided that one. I've kind of been avoiding this one until yesterday, but
you're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
So, and it's been on TV a couple times, I guess, over the years, and I've seen like bits and pieces of it, so I knew like who was in it. but I never sat down and watched it.
Mm-hmm.
So, that happened.
I did not know who's in it. And every time I saw like a big name actor that I recognized, I fucking cackled. I laughed so hard. Like, what the fuck are you doing? Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Anthony
Yeah.
Mackie, Rufus Sewell,
Yeah.
Alan Tudyk. Like, what the
Mhm.
fuck is going on right now? Are you shitting
Yeah.
me with this movie? And then this no-name person I've never seen in my life is the lead when I know all these other actors just because he kind of looks like Abraham Lincoln. It's the only reason
He
why.
does though.
He's fucking
He does
Brandon
look like
Routh in
him.
Superman Returns. Like, you look like him. It's yours. So what were your oh, and Jimmy Simpson? What were your overall thoughts on Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter?
It was a movie. Um, I don't know, man. The Bible verse at the beginning almost took me out.
Dude.
I was like, okay, I don't know what's going on. I have a note. Was this payback for me making you watch Twilight?
No, but
Because
I
this movie
will.
was Twilight.
This movie is way better than Twilight
I
by a
have notes that this
fucking
movie is Twilight.
country mile.
Yeah, I mean it's not the worst movie I've seen. There was a lot that I was like, I'd rather be watching anything else.
Like what?
But I mean, huh?
Like what? You mean the oversaturated effects? Or the fact that this entire movie was shot in front of one single green screen?
Right. Yeah. Did you see in the credits all of the special effects artists?
No, I didn't. I didn't make it that far.
I watched just to see. It was like, a crazy. I said that there are more CGI than an Endgame. Was a note that I said.
Oh yeah, this whole movie was like, it's like they painted a single brick wall green and was like, okay, the whole movie has to happen here, and everything's gonna be computer. Literally everything. You don't even have to face. We're gonna record them separately, just like Sin City. Like, it was a lot of not just CGI, a lot of rough CGI.
Yeah, they thought they were doing something and they weren't. But I mean, like, okay, so going back how I felt about it,
Mm-hmm.
it's one that, if I was held at gunpoint until I needed to watch this, I would do it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's fun to kind of. I mean, I had fun
I was
watching
gonna say,
it. I
yeah.
couldn't. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't miserable. I had fun. Um, I had fun pausing and just like regrouping and meditating on what I just saw. Um, like the horse throwing, I had to stop and reflect on that.
The fucking
Um,
stampede from the Lion King. We didn't need Lion King live action. We got it in 2012. All I kept hearing was the Hans Zimmer's theme and Simba yelling, "Dad!"
yeah, I mean, would I watch it again? Maybe in about 10 years. But or if it's on TV, well, okay. But yeah, if I never have to watch it again, I'm not gonna be upset about it.
Sure.
But I mean, it was fun. It was okay. It was
Yeah,
yeah.
this one was more fun than I expected it to be, and I think the title alone lowers my expectations. Like,
Yeah.
when I see the title Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, I think you're the worst movie. Fuck you for getting a budget. Why the hell? How stupid. Like, all these like random negative thoughts pop into my head when I read Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. Like, that's so fucking dumb. It's so stupid. And then you watch it and it is dumb. It's dumb, but it was fun dumb. It was like they did not take it serious. Like, okay, the actors took it seriously, but I don't think whoever wrote it did. I think they tried to have fun with it, and then the actors played it straight, and then you get this weird, fun, silly movie where it's like the performances are not particularly good. They're not very good. They're not very convincing. It's all kind of green screen, except for Rufus Sewell. He's pretty fucking awesome in everything that he does, really. But he just kind of has this natural, menacing charisma, and he actually had kind of, I don't know, some decent moments, I thought. But yeah, overall, produced by Tim Burton, by the way, puts his
That
name
is
on
a
that.
note. And Lincoln Park was at the end.
Yeah, Lincoln. I heard Lincoln Park and I started laughing. I was like, oh, this is specifically for 13-year-olds. You're not allowed to be younger and you're not allowed to be older. We put
It's Twilight.
shitty CGI, dumb vampire story, and Lincoln Park at the end. Like, this is, yeah, this might as well be called Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. Watch if you're 13. That's it. Um, and
Yeah.
at first I was disappointed. So I thought that we were gonna get like Abraham Lincoln as he is on the poster, as Daniel Day-Lewis, Academy Award nominate or Academy Award winningly portrayed him in the same fucking year that this movie came out. This movie came out in June 2012. Lincoln came out November 2012. We were robbed. This should have been the same movie. It should have been Daniel Day-Lewis.
Could you imagine?
Dude, that's the movie. Fucking directed by Steven Spielberg. Yeah, that's the movie. Anyway, I thought we were going to get that. Like the historical, when everybody thinks of Abraham Lincoln, older with the beard as the president, freed the slaves. I thought we were going to get him the whole way through. So in the first half of the movie was this backstory, him as a kid, showing his friend, showing that he was friends with, I don't even remember Anthony Mackie's character's name. I just know he was Anthony Mackie.
Will.
Will.
Because remember the son,
Because he
Willie.
names his son Will, who is murdered by a vampire.
Right.
Reminder, full spoilers. I said it at the top. But
it's historically accurate. So
yeah. Apparently they did a really good job of like marrying fact with like vampire alternate reality as far as like when people died and when battles happened and when, you know, using vampires as another reason to try to end slavery. Like they use historically accurate information to tie in fictitious vampire entertainment, which is more than they had to do. You didn't have to do jack shit with this fucking movie. You know what I mean? Um, but yeah, I laughed basically throughout the movie.
mm-hmm.
I was laughing because it was so stupid. It was fun. It was not stupid bad in my opinion. It was stupid fun. Because it was made for a 13-year-old. So if you don't like what's happening, guess what? In 5 minutes it's gonna be something else because they know you have the attention span of a 13-year-old. You know what I mean? So it's like, and then like, I don't know. I'm not heightist, okay? I'm not a heightist, but your vampire slayer can't be 5'5". All right? You can identify as whatever height you want to identify as, okay? I'm not heightist, but I can't take you seriously if Abe Lincoln is 6'5" and you're 5'5" next to him and you're supposed to be the badass. I just can't visually do it. Like Tom Hardy wore 6-inch lift boots for Dark Knight Rises for a reason. Because Christian Bale's 5'11" and he's 5'6", and Bane needs to be an imposing figure. Like it's fine to be 5'5", but there's a visual language in film. Shoot over the shoulder, look eye to eye with Lincoln. But that takes like Lord of the Rings forced perspective budget, and we don't have that here. We've got a green screen brick wall. What are your thoughts on anything I just said?
Well, maybe the actor who played Abe was not as tall as Abraham Lincoln is, and maybe they wanted a shorter actor to make him look tall. I don't know.
But whenever that guy was on screen, which it was very obvious he was a vampire from the start, Henry, the sunglasses,
mm-hmm.
literally fucking drinking blood in front of Abraham Lincoln and putting the sunscreen on. Like, please don't make that be a reveal later. They did. They did.
Yeah.
But to its credit, it's about halfway through where they tell you, I guess. So maybe it wasn't meant to be a secret. Maybe it's just supposed to be a character thing. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, because was that right? Because that's when he explained what happened, like, to his wife.
Mm-hmm.
Which we never saw die, and I kind of half expected to see her come back
100%.
and be like against him, and he has to kill her, or something like that, or she's being like held from him. because we never saw her die on screen. We don't really know if they. I know he said her blood was pure, but like, what does that mean? That she can't be turned or what?
Right. I think the
Um,
idea, and again, playing real fast and loose with vampire rules here, because they just wander around in the fucking daytime. What
yeah.
is the point?
Apparently, their eyes are the only thing that needs to be protected.
Yeah. Um, my perception of that was, if a vampire bites you, if you have a dark soul or have the capability of evilness in you, it turns you. And if you're a pure soul, then you just die. You can't become a vampire because God wouldn't damn you in that way because you're a good person or
Oh
whatever.
yeah, because they did talk about like, oh, this is the rules that like God set
Yeah, and
that a vampire can't kill a vampire.
I thought that was actually really cool, that vampires can't kill other vampires, and so it creates this inherently antagonistic relationship between creator and victim, because
Mhm.
you can't do anything about it. The forces of reality stop you. You know what I mean? I was like, that's actually a pretty cool vampire rule. And
At
then,
first, I thought it was sorry. At first, I thought it was just because like that you can't kill your maker. So
right.
so I was kind of surprised that it was like you can't kill a vampire at all.
Well, luckily we got the exposition to clear it up.
Right, exactly.
um, but yeah, I thought, yeah, you can't kill the one that made you. I thought that made sense on its own, or I thought that was cool on its own. But then I thought it was even cooler that vampires can't hurt each other, because I don't know. It made me think. It made me think on a deeper level. Like, what if humans couldn't hurt each other? Would the world be better if we couldn't hurt each other? And is it such a bad thing, this vision that this vampire has of the future, where we're all vampires and nobody hurts each other? And then they're just gonna have to live off of animal blood. You know what I mean? Like, maybe that's not such a bad thing. I don't know. Um, but I just thought that was a really cool vampire rule. And I also thought it was cool that, like, if you're pure of heart, you don't have to worry about it. Because then there's this curiosity. If you're a vampire, okay, if I bite them, what's going to happen? Did I just make a vampire, or I don't know, because I don't know what the purity of their heart is. You know what I mean? So that would make, but then it should be a little bit. You shouldn't be as casual. It should make you nervous to eat, because if you accidentally try to turn them into a vampire, you don't know what's going to happen. I don't know.
You nervous to eat.
Yeah. I mean, I guess if you're a vampire, you're nervous to eat anyway. Which, why isn't there? Shouldn't there just be? You know how, like, we eat animals? We go to the grocery store and we just buy a pound of ground beef. Shouldn't vampires just have that by now? Do they really need to be out mucking around, biting people in the neck? Shouldn't there just be vampires that are literally like, we are the hunters, right? We go kill, or we straight up. Shouldn't you farm humans and then kill them and put them in ground beef, and then you just eat that and you're good?
Why don't you write a movie like that?
I just did.
Yeah.
It's called Abraham Lincoln Vampire Farmer. um so yeah, I'm not against this kind of historical factual figures being given fictional horror bents. I think it's fun. Like, there's another movie I've never seen that I've kind of been curious about in the same vein, like The Man Who Killed Hitler and Then the Bigfoot. That stars Sam Elliott, by the way.
The whole
That's the
name.
whole title of the movie. The Man Who Killed Hitler and Then the Bigfoot. And that's a real movie that came out in the last like 5 or 6 years that I've never seen. I've just seen the cover and know it stars Sam Elliott. I'm like, maybe I need to watch that.
Yeah, that sounds pretty interesting.
Right? Just like Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, just like Pride and Prejudice and Zombies. Like, but I also think it's such an obvious, I don't know. It's like if I feel like he's ripping off real life and like getting to a narrative. It's like he's cheating almost. You know what I mean? Where it's like he's not making up his own world. He's basing it off of real life and then saying, and vampires. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know, but I guess how's that different than Titanic plus Romeo and Juliet? I don't know.
Kind of liked the idea of like whenever somebody makes like an historical event and then they give like, oh, here's, here there's the fake story of what happened, but here's what really happened. Like if somebody did something about like the Kennedy assassination, like, oh, this is this is what you think happened, but really, it was aliens, or something
Yeah.
like it was Men in Black, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, like, yeah, Men in Black does that kind of
Right.
thing. Um But no, I liked it. I like history. So I was also like on Wikipedia on Abraham and Mary's pages looking at the historical stuff and like, okay. Like in the movie they only did the one son, but they had like 4 or 5
Yeah, they had a
that
real
like
bad
all but
time.
one died
Mhm.
young. Um but yeah, it was it kind of depressed me. I was like, all right, let me get back to this movie.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
but no, I like the aspect of it. Yeah.
I also liked again, the interpersonal stuff wasn't that bad in my opinion. The friendship with Will, the friendship with the Jimmy Simpson character, the shopkeep who gives him a place to stay, and then they end up forming a bond and a friendship, but it's this kind of is the bakery owner like a racist because he looks at Abe weird when he tries to defend slaves, and did he really double cross them at the end with the silver train?
Yeah.
Which I mean when he said the line, everything's going exactly to plan, I was like, oh, you didn't double cross them, you're working with Abe. That was really over the
Yeah.
top.
Right. Yeah. Because at first, because the stuff that I've seen him in, usually he's been like a bad guy. So I was like, oh, he's gonna be bad. Like he didn't like
Right.
that Abe was like talking to Will. He like I guess is like you said racist, and I was like, oh well, he's gonna like turn him in. He's gonna do something.
Yeah.
And then whenever they um
Go to Adams.
like took him, yeah, when they took Will or
Uh-huh.
Willie, I can't remember what
Will.
he's called. And he had like just left him, and then he was like, "Oh, they took him," and I was thinking, like, did you like set that up? Was
Yes.
that you?
Yes.
It seemed very suspicious.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And that was, I
and then
mean, that was
yeah,
good on the filmmakers' parts because that's what they wanted us to think. Like I
yeah,
thought that stuff was done well up until the bad line read at the end. But continue.
yeah, yeah. So whenever it was kind of like it was revealed that he was working with them, I was like, I knew
Mm-hmm.
it. And then whenever, because that line, I was like, oh, okay. I was like, oh, so he's not.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a little surprised. So yeah, that's good. They had me fooled.
I thought, and again, and then speaking of the iconography of your movies, the imagery that people are going to take away and the things that they're going to remember, they definitely want Abraham Lincoln and his axe to be a thing. You're telling me it was the book cover. In the movie, it very much is like his specialty weapon that he like gets all fancy with and coats it in silver, so just hacking down enemies. I also thought like Django Unchained Vampire Hunter Edition was pretty fun, like a little mini movie in the middle of the movie where Henry's giving him names and we're just getting different vampires being hunted throughout Springfield, and just the different interactions that he has, like falling through the trap door and you think that he's gonna die and he gets out really ridiculously. There was a lot of over the top slow motion in this movie too, like
Yeah, and then some of like the shots where there was one, it was like kind of like flying in the air, and then it's suddenly like in front of like the storefront, but it was an obvious cut.
yeah.
Yeah, there was some stuff that wasn't like as smooth as they thought it was.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, it was there was some rough parts of this. I don't know if that's just because like they spent all their time, doing the big stampede and doing like the fight scenes, and then they're like, well, we'll just throw in like a little fancy schmancy shot here and there, and they just didn't do it properly. I don't know. But
They definitely did post production 3D when this movie came out in theaters. It was in 3D. Like the whip flying at the
oh,
screen and the axe flying at the screen completely unnecessarily was because of some fake bullshit 3D stuff.
oh, okay.
Um but yeah, I liked the little bounty hunting in the middle of getting a name and killing the vampires, and I liked that like I know, I mean, it's stupid and cheesy that Henry was a vampire because it's so fucking obvious, but I also like that they didn't hold that in their back pocket for the entire movie to make it the big reveal. Like Abe finds out and then they stay friends and keep working together. I'm like, that's fun. I was pleasantly surprised. He's working with the vampire to kill other vampires because he wants to get revenge, but he can't hurt vampires. I'm like, I like that. I wish these ideas were in a better movie. You know what I mean? Like almost like a more serious movie. Like, and this movie is not serious at all. At least I don't think. But
It's not?
what? um, but I feel like they think they were making a serious movie. I don't know. It's like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe. Well, I guess you could say maybe like the book wasn't serious, but the movie was serious about the book.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
so then in turn we're like, oh, it's not serious. So maybe they thought, yeah, like Mary Elizabeth Winstead, she tried her best. Um, I
I,
was like, she's too good for this
I
movie.
was
Why
gonna
is
say,
she in it?
as young Mary Todd, she was good, but and the makeup was actually pretty good. They aged her really well. Like I've seen way worse makeup in movies before, as far as
Yeah.
like aging goes. But yeah, the second it transitioned to like the modern Abraham Lincoln that you would know, and they needed the older makeup, I do think the actor that looked like Abraham Lincoln really did look like what I would expect Abraham Lincoln to look like. Um, but that her needing to be uh this like older, I don't know, uh, depressed Mary Todd, like it just wasn't very good. I don't necessarily think it was her fault because I think she is a good actor. And what a missed opportunity to fucking rip off Pet Cemetery and bring that boy back.
I know. I'm kind of surprised she let that go that quickly because she was like, "Whatever you can do, bring him back, bring him back." And then it was like, "He's not going to be our boy." Well, it's your fault, and then left.
Yeah, well, because
Like,
we hit the 5 minute time limit. It's time for a new idea. This is for a movie for
right.
13-year-olds. It's like, okay, this scene is this. It's like setup, middle, end. Beginning, setup, middle, end. It's like it's almost like 10 chapters of individual stories. Like edited together in 90 minutes. Um, I want to talk about kind of I don't know. What did you think of the resolution, the big climax, the silver train setup, getting all of this silver to get it to Gettysburg? I said earlier that I was disappointed that we didn't get traditional Abraham Lincoln from the start, but I actually like the pacing of his aging. I liked getting the backstory. I liked getting the growing up, and I liked that they did give us traditional Abraham Lincoln about halfway through the movie so that we could, because that's when I hear the title Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, I want to see a 50-year-old man running around with wooden stakes, and they didn't disappoint. You know what I mean? Like,
Right, exactly.
but
Um,
yeah, what did you think of the final big sequence of the movie?
um, well, I didn't expect that, and I should have because they like talked about like how Mary was like, "I'm going to need a lot of help, like leaving," and it didn't occur to me that she would be using the Underground Railroad with Harriet Tubman
Mm-hmm.
to carry all the silver. So I was a little. I thought that was a nice little surprise. The the old like the bridge is collapsing with a train on it was kind of like an old trope to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of expected like, oh, something's gonna go wrong with the train, definitely.
I thought a DeLorean
Um,
was gonna fly in.
right, exactly. Um, yeah. So I mean, yeah, that was fine. On the top of the train, like all the jumping they were doing when all the cars were, I thought that was a
Mm-hmm.
little too perfect
Mm-hmm.
that they were able to perfectly run across there. Yeah, it was a fine scene to me. And then on was it the next day on the battlefield or was it the same
Yeah,
day?
I think it was like the next morning. Like this big
Okay.
train sequence happens at night because they're like overnight trying to get all this silver to get the Battle of Gettysburg, and then we got again, like I mean, yeah, jumping forward, like seeing the vampires being killed in like a Civil War battle was pretty fun imagery to see.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I thought that yeah, I mean, how do you make a climax to a movie like this that when you've resolved the major vengeance halfway through? I killed the vampire that killed my mother. Now there's this other vampire who, you know, what is, I guess they tied him to being pro-slavery basically to make him the villain for Abraham Lincoln, right? I mean,
Yeah, some of the stuff he was saying, I was like, "Oh, all right."
yeah.
He's like,
Um
"We deserve to be free more."
And
Um,
apparently, I feel like I read this in trivia. Apparently, in the book, there's not this like head vampire. It's like just the story of Abraham Lincoln being a vampire hunter next to historical events. But like when they went to make it a movie, it's like, oh well, there needs to be a nemesis. There needs to be a big bad to fight, and that's where you kind of get this idea of like this vampire leader and whatever. But yeah, as far as like climaxes go for what this movie could have done, I thought it was pretty smart. It involved another historical context of the Underground Railroad. It had some trickery. It used some of the interpersonal relationship drama that they had set up with thinking that the guy that Jimmy Simpson had double crossed him when it turned out that he hadn't. Um, so yeah, I kind of liked how all that worked and how we got that. Of course, the movie ends with the Gettysburg Address watching vampires get stabbed. Like, I don't know, overall, like, I thought it was fun. Like, the worst thing that this movie could have been is Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, and then, like, it's not this. Like, you know what I mean? I feel like I got what I was promised from the title, which was Abraham Lincoln with cheesy historical accuracy, with insane, stupid slow mo vampire hunting, like non-stop vampire hunting and killing. There was a lot of vampire action in the movie. If it was cheesy and the effects were bad, at least they didn't make it like a one vampire showdown, which maybe that could have been cool though. What if the whole
yeah.
movie's leading up to there's a vampire out there? You
There's
know what I mean?
one vampire instead of like
Yeah.
50 billion in Springfield.
Yeah, it makes it
It
maybe a
would
little
be
bit more
insane.
impactful. I don't know if I'll ever unsee or not think about a vampire running in the broad daylight amongst a herd of horses and swinging it around like a chew toy and throwing it at Abraham Lincoln and it not snapping his legs in half.
And then immediately him like getting on it and riding
Yeah.
it.
Yes. And he's like, oh boy, hope you can catch me before I go kill Mary Todd. Oh boy, here I go. I swear to God, I thought, and everything looked so fake and cartoon that I thought one of the horses was going to turn to Abe and say, you better get him, motherfucker. He's going to get Mary.
Right.
Yeah.
I did, however, like when they were in like the vampire lair, it went from yellow to blue
Mm-hmm.
and then back to yellow. What did you think about the like the vampires up by like the mural on the wall? It was like they were part of the painting and then they dropped down.
Yeah, I thought that
Um,
was cool. I just thought that was, again, there just was a cacophony of ideas. Like, we could have explored how vampires are blending into your environment without you realizing it more than that 2 seconds. Like, I almost felt like they did that because it looked cool, not because there was any thought behind it otherwise. You know what I mean? Um, the music was, yeah, pretty generic. So silly to hear Linkin Park in it. I feel like if you're a teenager when you saw this movie in the theater, you had a good time. It had action, vampire, violence, and it had historical stuff that you're learning about in high school or middle school. Like, they just taught us about this, and now I know that that's actually how it happened. It's cool that they did the vampire thing too. You know?
yeah, I assume like young guys probably like this. They were probably the intended audience
That
anyway.
demo. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, there was one other thing. Well, two other things.
Okay.
Um, I didn't care for when they were in the lair and they're like, okay, you're either going to, what was it? Kill Henry and we'll like not kill Will. Was that what the thing was?
Right. It was kill Henry and we'll let you go.
Mhm.
Or if you're not gonna agree to kill Henry, then we're gonna kill Will right here. And of course we do the stupid
Right.
countdown. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah. And then they get free and everything and then they leave and then it stops talking about vampires and it goes just historical stuff and
Mm-hmm.
it's like however many years. I was like that seemed like that was more of a pressing issue. That
Mm-hmm.
why are the vampires waiting that long to come again? Like it seemed like it was like oh gosh, like they're going to really start coming after us now and then it was like, "Oh, we're going to, wait 10, 15 years and then
Yeah,
we're gonna come back."
yes,
I thought that was
yes.
a little weird where it was just like, all right, this is now a historical movie and that's all it is.
It should have been 15 years of Abraham Lincoln fighting for his life at the fucking White House because vampires were a nonstop onslaught trying to kill him for murdering hundreds of their own. You know what I mean? Like, Yeah, it doesn't make sense that they'd be like, oh, he stopped hunting us? Good. Glad to be rid of him. We don't need revenge. We're not immortal or anything. We don't hold grudges.
Yeah. And then at the end, did you think it was like a little too on the nose where like Henry was like, just let me make you immortal, like on the night that Lincoln's about to be killed?
Yeah, so the very end of the movie, we'll talk about that last Oval Office and then like the time jump to present day.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I thought that like, yeah, they were trying to use dramatic irony where we know what's going to happen to him, but the characters in the movie don't. That's like somebody being like, you sure you don't want to stay here? You sure you don't want to stay one more night? Nah, I got to get on that big Titanic boat tomorrow. Like I can't keep thinking about Titanic because that's another that's like doing what this movie tried to do done right, which is taking a historical event, putting a fictional spin on it, being respectful to the history, but being a very good movie on its own. Like it does the things that this movie probably thinks that it is, which is why I keep thinking of Titanic. You know what I mean? But yeah, I think that was super cheesy and super lame. Like it would have been enough. Like he should have proposed the immortality thing earlier, and then there maybe would have been some emotional sadness to just see them going to the theater and just have Henry looking on, not saying it in your face right there at the end to try to manipulate you right at the moment. It's like, how do I say this? This is I don't it's fine if nobody gets understands what I'm saying, but in the Matrix Reloaded, in the second Matrix movie, there's a big freeway chase. Do you know what I'm talking about?
The
Yes, with
Yes,
the semis.
yes.
Right before they get on the freeway, Morpheus is like, okay, we'll take the exit. Trinity, get on the freeway. And then Trinity, in the worst case of like last minute exposition to raise stakes I've ever heard in my life, because I remember this the first time I saw it and I've always thought about it then. But Morpheus, you said always to stay off the freeway. You said never to be on there. Well, we don't have a choice. Oh boy, now we're gonna do what we never do. Like, why don't you fucking open the movie with no freeways? And then later when it happens, you organically let the audience feel a dread that you don't have to talk about because it's like, oh, shit. You know what I mean? So earlier, if he would have mentioned, I can make you immortal, whatever, like, no, I'm not going to do that. Don't ever offer that. And then we get this, then we get the dramatic, well, I'm off to go to the theater. Probably just a normal night. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Even if they'd cut to like him in the bed, like basically dying, and Henry at his bedside, like pleading, like I could stop this, please. But then wouldn't that mean that Abe was not pure of heart?
Right. It would. It totally fucking would.
Yeah, it just
We
hit
just
me.
broke the rules.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
that would be
Unless they
really
can
cool.
somehow choose, but I don't think they can.
My
If
my genuine hope for the end of the movie was that was going to happen. I thought I didn't realize the movie was this close to being over. I thought we had 10 more minutes when it ended because
Mhm.
I thought they did that setup with let me turn you, let me make you immortal because that's what was going to happen on after he was shot and before he died. I thought the history books were going to write that Abraham Lincoln died, but in reality, his best friend, the vampire, saved his fucking life and made him immortal. But we couldn't have the person who just cured slavery be seen in an evil light. It's like Harvey Dent. We can't let the world know he's Two Face because that's going to undo all this good that we did. So now Abraham Lincoln is still alive as a vampire hiding in the shadows, still trying to hunt vampires, enlisting his own human vampire hunter because he can't hurt vampires or whatever. Like that's where I thought that the movie was gonna go, but it's like, yeah, fuck that. Here's a funny thing. We know how he was murdered. Ain't this funny? You know. And then we get the time jump, and there he is, still 5'5", recruiting people in the future at the same height.
Mhm. The same height.
And I read in trivia that that's not supposed to be a real life modern day president. It was like 2012. It wasn't supposed to be Obama. It wasn't supposed to be Bush. It was just supposed to be a
Oh,
random person.
I didn't even think about that.
Like, yeah, just because it was randomly Abraham Lincoln, why would you if anything, the president of the United States is the worst person to hire as a vampire hunter because they're fucking busy
Right.
and they're always
That's
around people.
I was kind of surprised that he never said like, "Hey, like, why do you want to be the president?" You know, that there would be like a scene of like him saying like, "I'm gonna run," and him being like, "This is a bad idea."
Mm-hmm.
But no, he didn't care.
You know, this is gonna really complicate the plot of our story, Abe. If you if you go through with this, yeah, no, I'm up for some personal conflict and some overcoming of obstacles. What about you, Henry?
I want to be the most looked at person in the nation right now. It's not like I have a huge secret or anything.
Seriously. God damn. Anyway, overall it was fun. The acting was bad, but they had fun with the premise. I was entertained. I didn't really get bored with the movie. I because again, every 5 minutes is something different. It's a revenge story, it's a love story, it's a historical retelling, it's a vampire action sequence. There's a lot going on in it. It was not as bad as I assumed it was going to be based off of the face value title. And I had never seen the trailer either. So
Would you watch it again?
I would, yeah. I would definitely.
Really?
I would, yeah.
I probably wouldn't.
I would. Yeah, I thought it was better than it had a right to be, and a lot of that is also the fun of the cast. Like seeing so many people. Like Anthony Mackie was like totally wasted. Like he was like the friend and that was it. But it's like he's a badass.
Yeah.
But yeah, what a weird fun. It was so funny. So I watched Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter first. And then I watched Candyman afterwards. Me too. And I was like, how in the world am I going to talk about Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter? Because this is like Candyman was a really good movie. And now we got to go talk about the Stampede from The Lion King. But it works out. I thought it was fun. If Mears has any suggestions about the formatting of this, if they want us to take more time talking about one movie or one game, let us know let us know, and I'll talk to Mears after recording. But I kind of like the 2 movie, just trying to balance the conversation of 2. I enjoy it, but if people want more thoughtful, if you want us to go through the plot and talk about stuff, let me know in the comments anywhere. So yeah, thanks, Mears, for joining me again. I know that was really important to you. I got all the notifications and all of the when's the next SuperJersh show? I hope you didn't already record it. I've watched all these movies. Like I appreciate your interest and glad to have you on again.
Yeah, thank you for letting me on again, and I promise I won't bug you anymore. And you can totally just block me and you won't have to worry about it anymore.
And then I'm like, hey, you want to be on again? She's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Muted your notifications.
New phone, who dis?
Yeah. That is going to do it for this episode of the SuperJersh Show podcast. You can find more episodes of this podcast on my website, SuperJersh.com. You can get this show early and ad-free by supporting me on Patreon.com/SuperJersh. If you want to listen to this in audio form and not watching it on YouTube, we are available on iTunes and Spotify. Just search SuperJersh. If you are watching on YouTube in the future, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if there are other ways that you want to follow me and support me, the Twitter, Instagram are both at SuperJersh. And if you want to be a part of the show and email in questions, comments, suggestions about movies or games or music that I've chatted about, the email address is superjershow@gmail.com. As always, thank you for listening or watching. Until next time.